guy who kind of, I guess, grew up listening to the show. He's a Brooklyn guy, and he's been in the metropolitan area. He coached at Columbia, and now he's the 34-year-old general manager of the Cavs, and that's Koby Altman, who joins us now. Koby, welcome to the program. How are you?
First time, long time, Mike. First time, long time.
Well, thank you very much. Give me a little bit about the background. So you grew up in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, grew up in Brooklyn, public school kid, New Utrecht High School.
What high school? New Utrecht?
New Utrecht High School in
Okay.
Bensonhurst, Brooklyn.
Okay.
And listen, we grew up listening to you guys. This is a tremendous honor, Mike.
Well, thank you.
I
appreciate it. It's very nice of you to say. Now, you went to Middlebury College, right?
went to Middlebury College in Vermont. Came back to New York, worked some real estate for a few years, but got my start at Xavier High School, local Xavier High School on 16th Street. The legendary Joe McGrain gave me my first opportunity as a freshman basketball coach.
Okay.
And that was about 10 years ago.
So continue to pass. Let's see how you got to be the way you are with such a prominent position. You were an assistant at Columbia, right?
Yeah, so before that, I went to Amherst College in Massachusetts, got my master's degree at UMass, did some USA basketball stuff along the way.
Okay. Were you in a sports management program there at UMass?
Sports management program.
Okay, they were one of the first ones in the country to have one, and they're the first ones to have a master's degree, I believe, too.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the country, and without that program, I don't think I'd be here. I got introduced to Sean Ford from USA Basketball and had that opportunity to work with those guys in the summer, and that sort of propelled my career. And then being in New York City for a couple years in Columbia put me on a great platform to coach basketball.
And how'd you get to the Cavs?
Be around the sport.
How'd you get to the Cavs?
I got Kyle Smith, who was the head coach at Columbia for 5 years. Now he's at San Francisco. Introduced me to the then general manager, Chris Grant, at that time, and I became a scout, and I've been with the Cavs now 5 years, my 6th year. And I never thought I'd be here at this point, and I also never thought I'd be on this show. So,
well, listen, how about
before you were done? Because I know was it December 15th?
December 15th.
That's crazy. That's the end of an era.
Well,
that's
thank you.
Unbelievable.
Thank you. Well, it's great to have you on the program. We're talking with the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and talk about getting a job first of all, you're 34 years old and you're a general manager, and our program director's son is the general manager in Cleveland of the Indians, Mike Chernoff. So another young guy. So, but being a general manager at 34. And not only that, working with a team that's a championship level team and dealing with one of the greatest players of all time. I mean, that's a heck of a deal for a 34-year-old guy.
Well, it's tremendous opportunity. Obviously, what makes this unique for me is I've been with the Cavs for 5 years, so I sort of knew the lay of the land. I knew the cast of characters. If I had taken this on as a new face, it would have been a lot more challenging. Now, they're all hard, Mike, as you know. Each position's hard. Each one's unique. Each one presents different challenges. This one, you're tasked with, winning a championship. And
this is a tricky year,
I want
too.
that challenge before anything.
And
go ahead, what you say?
I said this is a tricky year, too, because you had whatever caused the trade. You have the whole thing with Irving. You bring back Isaiah, who is out till when? January? Is he out till January?
We think January. I mean, he wants to come back a lot sooner. We're telling him to slow down, but he's getting stronger every day, and we're excited about his return. And I think obviously you mentioned the Kyrie thing, which was a challenge unto itself. But very rarely are you able to return an all-star in such a trade. So getting him in that deal was important to us, and we're excited about getting him back. But we're not rushing it because, again, we're playing for a deep run and not so much the right now.
Well, look, I mean, right now, you brought in some interesting pieces. It's going to see how they work. Wade, like last night, asked to go to the bench, right? Rose is hurt. You got LeBron last night, can step in, and he can do anything. We know that. He can play point, which he's got the ball a lot anyway, as we know. And you brought in Green, who's going to be an interesting player for you, too. I mean, he's going to help you, too. There's no question.
It's interesting. I think this is, for sure, the deepest team we've ever been since I've been in Cleveland. And obviously we gotta get healthy, but when you talk about Rose and LeBron and Wade and Kevin Love and Tristan, J.R., Korver, Crowder is a really unique piece for us too, because he's going to come in and defend.
He's a good
provide
defender.
That gritty toughness.
Yeah, really good defender.
He can hit threes too now, Mike. He can hit threes.
Right.
he also takes the pressure off LeBron, so now he guards other teams' best player, and we let LeBron roam a little bit. And then Jeff Green's another versatile defender, and then Shumpert. And so all that before we get IT back. And we just think we're very deep, versatile, and super talented, obviously.
You know, we're talking with Koby Altman, the general manager of the Cavs. We look at everything, and with your team, we measure it against whether or not they're still able to win a title and nothing else. I mean, obviously, that's the level you're on with this team. It's interesting what you just said about Crowder. What Crowder can give you, we know he's an elite defender. So while you may ask LeBron now maybe to have to be more involved on offense, you're going to take maybe a little pressure off him now by not having to have him be the stopper on defense as much right now.
For sure. This is the first time I think that we've played an elite defensive wing with LeBron since I've been here. And LeBron's so great in the backline defense because he's so vocal. He's such a great leader. He's calling out commands. He's calling out defensive shifts. And so having him on the back line as a protector / helper come the playoffs, I think is going to be a big deal for us. And we're going to return some guys that can go get one. I think, you know, when you lose a Kyrie Irving, that's the hardest part. Kyrie, as the play breaks down, he can go get you a basket. And we get IT back to health. I think that provides that sort of scoring punch to help LeBron out as well. But we're super deep, and we're excited. I think it's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way with 8 new guys. So as you know, Mike, the continuity doesn't start out right away. But I think guys are in a great space and excited about what we can do with the new pieces.
But you mentioned guys who are versatile. Green's a versatile guy. You have, obviously, Dwayne Wade, who, you know, he knows what he can give you on a given night. You got Rose, who, I mean, the only thing that Rose has got to do is, you know, he can go to the basket with anybody. He's just got to be, you just like to see him be a little more consistent with his jump shot than he is. I mean, but he can still go to the basket and get his shot whenever he wants, I mean, which he does very well. But it'll be interesting to see how Isaiah and LeBron play. Do you envision Isaiah a little more with the ball or a little less with the ball, and LeBron with the ball and allowing Isaiah just to nail threes?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Isaiah, I got to remember, Isaiah averaged 29 points a game last year for Boston, and they finished on top of us last year to finish first in the East. So he comes with that scoring punch. But if you watch Boston last year, they did a lot of movement, and so he can play without the ball. He hits, he cuts to the corner, he comes off ball screens, and then at the end of the clock, he can go get you a basket. So I'm excited to see that 1-3 on ball with him and LeBron playing off each other. I think that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, that will be. And, you know, you wonder now what you may lose. Not that Irving was a good defender anyway, but what he might lose in terms of defense, you pick up with Green, with Crowder, and that might be an inch. We look at everything from the Golden State matchup. That's what we all look at, is that, you know, what Green could offer or a Crowder could offer will be interesting in helping him out on the other end of the floor a lot more. I mean, that might be, and it might take some pressure off Isaiah.
I agree. You know, we thought we got pretty good value back in that deal. It's hard. You're trading a 25-year-old All-Star and Kyrie Irving going into his prime, but you got to remember the pieces we got back in that deal. And I know that the deal was done during the summer, Mike, so you might have been in Saratoga. Yeah. But we also got a pretty valuable draft pick in that deal as well. And so that gives us flexibility this year if we were to move it. But I'm excited about this draft as well. So it gives us a peek into the future as well in terms of having a high draft pick in this draft, hopefully.
We're talking with Koby Altman, the general manager of the Cavs. Koby, how much do you have to worry now about game to game with LeBron as far as his minutes? And we had this debate a while ago, and I think it's a fascinating one to see someone who I think has played harder minutes both ends of the floor than anybody I've ever seen in basketball, and been asked to do more than anybody I've ever seen. How long can he be at the same level? I mean, when do you start to see slippage? I thought maybe he's not as the elite defender where he was so good. Maybe he's a little less a defender than he was. The rest of his game actually at times has gotten better now with his offense. From that standpoint, when is it reasonable or to expect him to slow down a little bit?
Well, it's a great question. I think he sort of knows his body better than anybody. And he'll tell you when sort of he wants to take a break, but he doesn't ever really do that. I wish we could protect him from himself, but he loves the game so much and he wants to play. he can return to that defensive elite status when he wants to. In the finals, he leads both teams in block shots and steals. So when he wants to turn that side of it on, he can turn that side of it on. It's incredible, this run he's on. I mean, Mike, every day I'm around this guy who's led a team to 7 straight finals. And if you add up all those extra playoff games, it's like an extra 2 seasons or something like that.
Remarkable.
It's mind-boggling.
No, remarkable
and
what he's done.
His body of work is just incredible. He creates a sense of urgency for everyone around him, including the front office, the coaches, the performance team. He brings a culture with him. And so, we're going to do whatever we can. And a lot of it this offseason was like, yes, let's address this depth so we don't have to utilize him so much and play him so much like we did last year. We were very, very top-heavy last year, very, very talented, but now we can get some guys in there to take them off the floor and hopefully maintain, you have to be better with them off the floor, but sort of maintain if we have a lead going into the fourth by way of example.
What about Wade in the regular season? What are you expecting from him? I know he said he'd rather come off the bench. What about Wade? What can you expect from him?
So in talking to him, and I talked to him yesterday, it was a pretty incredible conversation. He's an incredible professional. And that's not easy, Mike. This is one of the best shooting guards of all time that went to the head coach and said, I'm willing to come off the bench because I think it's the role for me. And he told me yesterday, every person has to be the best in their role. And the times in Miami when I was the best player, that was my role, and people had to fit in around that. And now I'm coming to this team, and I want to help this team win, and I think my role is going to be off the bench. And what does he do? He has his first double-digit game scoring-wise yesterday and helped us win. So we're excited about what he brings in terms of his championship DNA, his basketball IQ, and I think the fit around him in that second unit is really remarkable when we put a Kyle Korver on the floor or put a Channing Frye on the floor and just give him space to do his thing. It's going to be fun to watch him do his thing in that second unit.
And, Love's fit in better than I thought he would. When he first came, I wasn't in love with the idea of bringing him in there. And I have to admit, when you look at his body of work, he has fit in better than I thought he would. And you know what? He can do a lot of different things. He is versatile.
He's very versatile. He had to make the biggest sacrifice from Kyrie and LeBron when we first put that team together. And people sort of forget about the fact that, he's a 20-10 guy. The moment he steps on the floor, he provides spacing, shooting for LeBron, who needs space, and then he's a remarkable passer. And so we're going to see a lot more of Kevin Love this year. We're going to feature him a lot more. And I think you're right. I think he sort of goes unnoticed in this world that we live in with the Cavs. But he's a very, very important piece to our championship runs this last 3 years.
We're talking with Koby Altman, the general manager. The idea this year about sitting stars down, do you feel, since you have the biggest star, do you feel that you and the league are aligned about when and where LeBron will take his time to take games off?
We're very sensitive to that, Mike, because we get it. I mean, we have a guy that when we go on the road,
he's a rock star.
We're sold out.
Yeah,
we're sold out in every building.
Right.
I mean, you're traveling with a guy that's bigger than life. That being said, we need to protect our guy because we're trying to win a championship. And so I totally get the new rules being put in place, and I understand where Adam's coming from. Adam Silver, our commissioner, is coming from, who's done a remarkable job with our league. And so we're gonna make sure we abide by the new rules, but we also have to be conscious of what it's like for LeBron. I mean, you asked that question about how many games and when is it going to stop, and so is 82 games even something reasonable for a guy at this point? I don't think so. He would like to, but we have to make sure that we're being conscious and looking for a deep playoff run, which is our goal.
And also, I think you can probably win from anywhere in the playoff positioning. I mean, does that give you a lot of leeway? Do you feel that way, or do you feel you need to be in the upper echelon? I mean, do you have a target of where? I know you don't have to be first, but do you have a target of where you need to finish in your mind? Does it matter, or you just have to be in the mix?
I'd love to finish first, Mike, but it doesn't always work out that way. Again, I would say that the challenging part to start the season is eight new faces, And so how does that work out? And so we're going to have some bumps and along the way of getting that continuity back. And then when we bring IT back, what's that going to look like? How long is that going to take? So making sure we're healthy and clicking on all cylinders is the most important part going to the playoffs for us. And so I'd love to say, yeah, let's finish first and have home court advantage throughout. I think the most important part for us is to be healthy and playing at our peak going into that first game of the playoffs.
When you were confronted with the Irving situation, we're talking with the general manager, Koby Altman, was the Celtics the clearly definitive best option, or were there other options that were close?
It's a great question, Mike. I mean, those are some dark days. I don't like to go back and rehash those early moments in my tenure. It was a very challenging time. It was hard because one, you don't want to go into a position where you have to trade your all-star, and so the first week or so, I'm just collecting information and figuring it all out and seeing who was serious about it and who presented the best offers. I won't go into other teams. There were some really serious teams that stepped up, and we thought that from a value perspective that Boston stepped up and presented us with a package that, one, let us reshuffle the decks, but kept us really competitive this year. Made us deeper, and then gave us some young assets and draft picks that we thought were very valuable for us and our flexibility moving forward.
We're talking with Koby Altman. Your job is an interesting one too, Koby, from this standpoint. Everyone feels, since you have maybe the biggest player in sports on your team. I mean, you can make the argument he clearly is because he's more valuable in terms of wins and losses than in any other team sport. That he is always got to be dealt with, and deal with his whims about players if he's unhappy as the season draws on with a player. Do you have to talk him off the ledge on players? Do you have to go back and forth? Do you have to read? How much time do you spend dealing with him about what is really his team as much as anybody else's? How much input do you have with him in terms of personnel during the season? Because that's always speculated. You're the only one who could really answer it. How much input does he really have into that?
Sure. So he's a basketball savant. And I don't say that lightly. He's an absolute genius, X's and O's wise, and then personnel wise. So it wouldn't be smart of us not to utilize his brain when we're discussing different opportunities. He's been in this league. This is his 15th year. He knows everybody. He evaluates everybody. He's up late watching League Pass, so he does the analysis and the evaluations. It wouldn't be smart for us not to use his brain when we're discussing different things or different opportunities, which is my job. He's been a tremendous partner for us this off season. As chaotic as it looked from the outside, we thought we were doing a really good job of making incremental changes to help us. And he was a big partner in that in terms of helping us recruit some of these free agents. So he remains locked in and steadfast in helping us win a championship. And those goals are aligned. And we're fortunate also to have an owner in Dan Gilbert that gives us the resources, the wherewithal, and the support to go field a team like we do every single year. So he's in a great space. LeBron's in a great space, but I'm honest. I learn when I talk to him about players. I learn when I talk to him about different strategies and schemes. He's a brilliant basketball mind, so he's a part of a lot of our decision-making.
That makes sense. I mean, it really does. I mean, first of all, he's been there a long time. Secondly, I mean, he's the guy. You got to keep him happy. I mean, there's a partnership there. There clearly is, so you got to keep him, you got to keep him involved. I just wonder does it get to the point where he goes high and low on players based on how guys are playing or based whether the team's in a slump? Does his moods change like that, or is he more even-keeled than that?
No, he's a leader. And every time we go out on the road, he's inviting everyone out to dinner. He's much more of a everybody in sort of mentality. And that's a cultural thing. That's a leadership piece that can't be taught. That's the kind of person he is. And he's uplifting, but he wants to win, man. He wants to win, Mike. And you guys followed those Knicks teams around, and we kept running into that Michael Jordan, and Michael did whatever it took to win some of those games. And whether his teammates were upset with him or not, somehow he ended up getting that done. He has that in him. And it's just an undying will to win, and that aligns with our goals as well.
One last one, Koby, and I appreciate your time. We're talking with Koby Altman, the general manager of the Cavaliers. How much is done with an eye on the league, and how much is done with an eye on Golden State? I mean, how much does Golden State enter into all your plans, since they're obviously the other team in the league right now?
It's a great question. That's a juggernaut out west. There's no doubt about it. But we really do have to pay attention to ourselves and make sure we're getting better every day. And then also making sure we're taking care of business every day from the next opponent standpoint. And then from a playoff standpoint, you still have to get there, right? And so we don't know who's going to line up with us if we're fortunate enough to ever get back to the championship. But everyone talks about how bad the East is. I think the East is still pretty good and presents its challenges and teams that got better every single year. So, of course, you're watching the league. You're watching everybody in the league, and you understand what a great team Golden State is. But for us internally, how are we getting better? How are we getting better every single day? And am I doing the job to investigate all the opportunities that could get us better as well?
You're a Brooklyn guy. You watch all the teams in the league. What do you want to tell me about the Knicks right now?
So, my Knickerbocker. So I think what's interesting about the Knicks is, finally I think Steve Mills has a chance to, have his plan in place. And Mike, you've been around it this whole time. What was the plan? What was the plan? Was there ever a plan? And so I think he has a chance to have a plan, use his draft picks, not do anything to cut any corners, grow his young youth, and hopefully have enough patience from the city to do that. And I think New Yorkers will, if they see the plan, they'll buy into it, even if it means a few years of that. But I think Steve finally, who's done a great job rounding out his staff in the front office, I think he's able to sort of have this vision, and we'll see where he takes it.
Well, listen, thanks for coming on. Don't be a stranger. Call up anytime. And I do appreciate it. Good luck this year, and we'll chat along the way. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Koby Altman, the general manager from Brooklyn, the general manager of the Cavs, who won last night and, have a lot of new faces, as he said, and don't have Isaiah Thomas there right now. So a lot of it on LeBron right now. And they do have Wade, and they do have Rose, who's hurt right now, but Wade coming off the bench, and Green and Crowder, and 8 new players. So they really did turn over that roster pretty much with that Irving trade. Back after that.